Here we fucking go again. Hey guys, welcome back. So there has been another future Halo leak, this time from a guy called the Sam's Report, who supposedly has inside sources within Microsoft. Now, apparently this guy was the one who scooped early information on the Scorpio, and also the Elite controller, and was right both times. So he's reputable, but as always with leaks, take them with a huge fucking mountain of salt. So in this leak, he says that he doesn't think the next major Halo title is coming out this year, and that loot boxes are going to be a very major part of it. So much so that they, oh god, here we go. They were originally going to be implemented very similarly to how Battlefront 2 implemented them. But after the huge backlash, they've taken a step back and re-evaluated them. He then says that the game will still have remnants of this, but that Microsoft are re-evaluating it all. So, before we all freak out, and don't worry, we will do, Frankie did comment on this leak, saying that it's purely fake, and we're going to take a look at what he said. His words exactly were, "This is bunk, we're not re-evaluating anything significant, and Microsoft isn't designing anything for the next game. 343 is. We watched the EA Battlefront thing with a curiosity you'd expect, but our current rep system is player-focused and well-liked and unintrusive as far as these things go." Now, believe whatever side you're going to believe, that's not the important issue today. What we need to talk about is 343's microtransaction mentality going into Halo 6. So, Frankie ends his leak debunking by saying that the current rec system is player-focused, well-liked, and unintrusive. Now, Frankie, I love you, man, but this just isn't true, and we need to talk about why. So, granted, there definitely wasn't a mass revolt about the rec system like there was with Battlefront 2 system, or with any other game's microtransaction system. But by no means does this mean that it's well-liked. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The only reason the outcry wasn't galactic in scale is because the rec system is one of the least shit systems in a pool of utterly pure shit systems, designed first and foremost to extract the maximum amount of money out of the player as possible. That's the genesis of these systems, it's the reason they were created. The system isn't anywhere close to being well liked, and I don't think I've ever heard somebody say,
"I prefer having no control over unlocking the armor piece that I really want thanks to RNG, instead of being able to work towards it specifically."
And I don't think I ever will do unless it's purely ironic. People just put up with it more because it wasn't as bad as other games at the time, like Black Ops 3 for example. But this does not excuse it, and it doesn't even remotely translate to it being well liked. And nor is it player focused. These systems are first and foremost not built for the player. They might be modified later on to be more player friendly, but locking content previously attainable in-game behind random paywalls, whether they're soft or hard paywalls, is the polar opposite of player focused. I don't know a single player who would rather have something locked behind money than an achievement, or behind RNG than a goal they can actively work towards and improve in the process. Halo 3's system was player focused because the player had control over what armor they worked towards. Halo Reach's system was player focused because the player could choose to buy whichever armor piece they wanted and ignored the ones they didn't want. Halo 4's system was player focused because the player could grind specific achievements or commendations to get the armor pieces that they longed for. Halo 5's system is diametrically opposed to the notion of being player-focused, because you have a grand total of 0 control over which armor you unlock and when you unlock it. Heliosquill, one of the 2 armor sets in the game that actually require achieving a goal, was put in the rep system on day 1, so those who grinded Combat Evolved through Halo 4 on Legendary on MCC had their cool, unique reward absolutely nullified, because anyone could now get it through pure luck, or, of course, by spending monumental amounts of money and buying gold packs. And then, when the classic helmet pack came out, a pack that everyone knew was going to be pretty damn popular because it contained helmets that actually looked like they belonged in Halo, as opposed to whatever the fuck this is. It was priced extortionately. Now, does any of that sound even remotely player-focused to you? And unintrusive? Granted, Frankie did say unintrusive as far as these things go, which, you know, I will concede on a little bit. I do partially agree with that. But overall, the rec system is purely antithetical to the idea of being unintrusive. Not only did the system completely ruin the way we unlock Spartan armor, it also ruined the way that we customize our Spartan armor. Because of the rec system, the awesome array of customization options built up over Halo 3, Halo Reach, and Halo 4 was completely torn down. And there's a reason for this. You see, when these microtransaction systems are created, they need to follow two rules to most effectively earn revenue. Rule number 1, they need to be as simple as possible to understand, so the player more concisely knows why they need to spend more money on them. Rule number 2, they need to be filled with as much filler content as possible without breaking the first rule by making the loot pool too cluttered, so it needs to strike a sort of sweet spot. The rec system does a better job than most at following these rules, and in doing so, the unlockable armor pieces were watered down to simply body, helmet, and visor. If the rec pool contained all the customization options that Reach and Halo 4 offered, it'd be way too cluttered and hard to understand, and thus armor unlocks, and consequently armor customization, was grossly oversimplified and ultimately a system that has been a core tenet of Halo since Halo 3, since 2007, was ruined. Now, ruined, yep, it does sound a little bit hyperbolic, and yes, it is subjective, but it's what I'm gonna go with, because to me, Halo 5's armor customization was one of the worst changes that came with the game. In fact, it was probably one of the worst changes the franchise has ever seen, in my opinion, and there's almost a unanimous displeasure towards it. A similar thing happened with the emblems too. The classic emblem system, where you could design your own unique emblem that suited you from an array of various different emblems that were unlocked by default, was completely changed. No longer could you customize the emblem itself, and most of them were locked behind, you guessed it, the rec system. So if you wanted to rock that one emblem that you've always had since Halo 2, then sorry buddy, but you gotta spin the rec slot machine and hope you get lucky. And we haven't even touched the rec weapons and vehicles yet. Now, I am gonna give the Warzone stuff a little bit of a leeway, because Warzone was a mode designed specifically as a contained arena for all of these purposefully overpowered weapons and vehicles, and they don't explicitly entrench on the rest of the game, which is why I can see you'd think the system is unintrusive. Of course, if you don't take into account how it completely ruined armor customization and emblem customization. Now, I think it'd be pretty ignorant of me to spend all this time sitting here explaining why the rec system is so bad and why it's not what it's being described as without offering a way to fix it and a way to improve it. And honestly, I think I have a pretty good idea as to how to do this. First off, cut the number of armor sets in the game down by like 90%, quality over quantity. The complete opposite was the case with Halo 5, where there's like, 250 armor sets, about 230 of which just look out of place and uninspired, and like they were made purely because they had to be made, so they could pad out the rec pool and increase the number of items in the system. Next, take out 100% of the actual armor pieces from the rec system, and make all of them, and yes, I mean 100% of them, unlockable via achievements, commendations, arena ranks, etc, etc, and then leave just the armor skins in the rec pool. But right now, these armor skins are practically the literal definition of meh. Aside from a few, they're literally just different patterns of white lines that offer no variation at all. Instead, make the lines animated with like lightning or fire or fog or something, or maybe even ditch the idea of armor skins altogether and instead have armor attachments in the rec system, like what Halo Reach had, with the pipes and the cameras and the flashlights and stuff like that, and maybe even bring back armor effects and put them in there too. The point is, you can do so much with this system, and you can build on it in so many positive ways that don't involve ruining an existing core tenet of Halo. So, in conclusion, the rec system is by no means player-focused, well-liked, or unintrusive. It's quite the opposite, and I sincerely hope that it's changed drastically going into Halo 6. I mean, at this point, we all know that it's going to be in the game. It made too much money not to be in the game, and sadly, it's the industry norm nowadays. But we need to do whatever we can to make sure the system is as unintrusive and unsleazy, if that's even a fucking word, I have no idea, as possible. If you enjoyed this video and want to go the extra mile in supporting your boy on Patreon, my link is at the top of the description. Huge shout out to TheArdentPrayer, Chris G and Alex Agui for the extremely generous donations. I appreciate it more than you can imagine. And also a massive shout out to all the other patrons so far. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.